You guys all set?
Resurgence. Sure. Earthquake.
Oh my god. All right,
Actually, I've
guys.
been when I
In
do classes, I tap my table and then it goes.
5. You son of a bitch. How dare you? It's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Anime Casuals. I'm Lucky. Here I go! This hand of mine is burning red!
And I'm Michael. Realize the only ones who should kill are those who are prepared to be killed.
Johnny.
Your darkness swallowed up my son? Who decided that?
Erupting! Burning!
Now all of you.
Die.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to Anime Casuals. I'm Lucky,
I'm Michael.
I'm Johnny.
and we make up Anime Casuals. So today we're going to be doing things a little bit different. So instead of doing our usual weekend talks, the usual thing that we end up doing, usually like the last part of it is where we talk about the anime that we're keeping up with. We're going to keep that as a podcast exclusive, and we're going to just talk about more specific things and maybe things that don't involve nearly as much spoilers, so you guys can all watch them, so it works out. But today, the topic that we're going to discuss is what is anime, and we're gonna go and become hermits in caves and settle on the answer. So we'll see you in 5 years. But no, we oh my god,
Tank top.
yeah, you
It
fool!
doesn't work that way.
Wow, just coming in not
can't see
prepared.
you. You
Just
can't
coming
see
in
me.
not prepared, Johnny. I can't believe you've done this.
I can't
Uh,
see you.
I
So-
didn't
Where
know
are
we
you,
were
Johnny?
So, gentlemen, what is anime? What is it?
Well, anime is
man.
spelled Anime, and logically, it's animation, and that's what it's short for. And give me your glasses.
There you go.
Give me your glasses.
Video over. We're done.
I would say okay. I'm gonna give you an internet specific thing because this is what I've been thinking about since I thought about this question. There's two forms of anime. There's what we as a person or as an individual consider an anime, and there's what globally that is considered an anime. And by globally, I mean Japan itself. So we have two different versions of anime. We have the individual, what you think is anime. We have the Japanese view of anime. And I would say the Japanese view of anime is usually nearly 90% of the time it needs to be made in anime. I mean, made in anime. It needs to be made inside anime, animeception. No, it needs to be made in Japan, and it needs to have animation tied with it. I think that's really loosely the description of anime. And then even Shin-chan, which is in a cartoon fashion, is an anime. So that's a very loose definition. But then we come over to America, which is another big producer, also with Korea, now with webtoons and stuff coming out, is I would say it's animated and it has to fulfill the dramatic sense of anime. So something is like the story is blown out of proportion, like even like the animation is very characterized of like traditional anime, and it's really hard to tell like what makes She-Ra, the Netflix cartoon, not an anime at this point because it has wild story. So I mean it's like such a difficult question, but then you look at stuff like Avatar, and Avatar really has that line, but it's still a cartoon. So now taking a question and posing another question, what is anime?
I never
Oh
thought
my
about that.
God.
Oh my god! What about you, Johnny? What is anime?
I don't really know. I've been trying to think of like what to say about this. What is anime? I mean, I don't know if you can say it has to be from Japan. I mean, unless we are saying that, only Japan can make anime. I mean, I'd hope in the future we'll get anime from everywhere. Kind of like, well, actually, yeah. God of High School is a good example. Tower of God. I mean, those aren't Japan, but they're still anime, right? Hmm. I don't know. It's got to be just some kind of just the way it's made, maybe, or maybe it's just a culmination of different things. Maybe it's it's from Japan. That's one point. It's made from a manga. That's a point. But I don't know. I don't know necessarily. I don't know. I've been wrestling with this idea for like a week, trying to think of like what is anime, and I'm not really sure. I mean, I said at one point, I feel like almost you know it when you see it, but at the same time, there is a kind of line that's drawn. I mean, in my casual research, I found basically the same couple anime, or damn it, the same couple shows would pop up as far as is it anime, is it not anime, and that was like Avatar, Legend of Korra,
Megas XLR.
Actually, that popped up on the list of one of the ones that is considered an anime, but it's not. But it definitely got me thinking. There's a lot of different shows that, I mean, where do they lie? I mean, like things like Megas XLR, admittedly, like other shows like Total Spies and Code Lyoko were on there. That's a weird kind of range of things, but I don't know. Like then you have like Ruby, and Ruby apparently has been licensed in Japan, so that's something.
Well, and you actually brought up a really good point. Is that I feel like anime originally started. Well, not originally started. I mean, started off as strictly off as I don't remember what it's called, but the first animation or anime was a propaganda film early on in Japan. Slash, there was also an earlier one that was just like, hey, I wanted to animate some stuff, so I animated it. And it was slightly racist telling of like a drunk samurai or something. I watched it at some point. It was weird.
I looked it up today, and I found a lot of different things on what the first anime is.
Yeah. And I like the point of like it's from a manga, because I feel like that's what a root of anime used to be, until things like Zombieland Saga came out, which is pure anime. There's no written version of that. There's no manga of Zombieland Saga. It's just an anime. And maybe that's because it's in Japan. But I mean, initially you could say that an anime is from a written source that's been translated into a visual medium. Now, I wouldn't say that's true for all anime, but I think that's a good like beginning point to start working around from. Because I think that's really important. Any manga that's created into a visual medium is an anime immediately. I think there's very rare that there's one that doesn't become an anime. So, I mean, that's already like almost a rule number one, that not all anime have to be from manga, but all manga made into anime are anime. Or all manga translated to a visual medium is an anime.
I might have one that started as that now we're getting into what's manga. But Scott Pilgrim. That's in the same kind of format as a manga, but is that anime?
Well, and that's the thing.
Got live action, so I mean,
I would say that Scott Pilgrim is a comic, but I mean that's a whole nother like bag of it in itself, because there's been a few comics that have come out. Example, I guess really loosely, it's not even anywhere close to an anime, but like Umbrella Chronicles is like a Dark Horse. Dark Horse, is that what it's called? Dark Horse Comics.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's Dark Horse.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Dark Horse.
I mean. And it's very animated, but like darkly, like in the comics. But I mean, I would say that webtoons themselves advertise. No, that webtoons themselves are the closest thing to a written anime, even closer, I feel like, than manga itself. It's colored. It's almost visually moving. I don't know. You guys webtoon?
I may have seen a few back when they were first like advertising them, but they'd
not,
be like, "Hey, here's
they're a little bit of a mixture. I've seen some black and white ones, and I've also seen them somewhat colored, and then I've also seen some manga, but that are colored. But I'm pretty sure they're fan coloring, so I'm not. I would probably just throw that part out. But yeah, I have seen some webtoons that are colored. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So using the uncolored, because I've never seen one that's black and white yet, but they're definitely like a weird mixture of visually moving as you pull up the screen, because the way the panels are aligned is much different than a book. You're constantly pulling up through the story. So some of the best webtoons out there are able to play with this never stopping panels that you're showing. And that's another question, is that God of High School and Tower of God, those aren't from Japan, but those are anime. And is that because they were picked up by Crunchyroll? Who knows? But I think it's exactly what you're talking about, Johnny. You know it when you see it, and they fulfill certain, I don't know, like they fill certain stereotypes that you just can't have anime without, I guess, is the root of it. Like even like Teen Titans Go is like close to anime, or Teen Titans is close to anime itself.
Yeah, that was on a couple lists. Hi, Puffy Yumi.
Puffy.
Hi, Puffy Yumi show. I remember. So I was watching a video today, and so I share a lot of the same views as this person does. I think the term anime is very subjective. So you know, if you guys are watching this, and you're like, wait a minute, that's not anime. This is you know, it kind of goes all over the place. What I believe anime is obviously animation, but intended for a Japanese audience is the way that I describe it, because it's a little bit easier to say. But I will put some nuance on that, because you know, in this video, they were also talking about how, you know, there are some, you know, there was a Japanese, I don't remember if it was a director or artist, something like that worked on Adventure Time. And so, you know, you can't go based off of like Japanese personnel behind the scenes, because then you start to get into like what was Transformers in the 80s or 90s, that cartoon, because that was heavily by you know, Japanese animators, and you start to get into that.
Yeah.
So I it's easier to look at who is this intended for, because a lot of Japanese anime, and I just figured this out the other day because I was talking to my brother about it, because we were talking about the Blood of Zeus anime on Netflix, and it was, you know, he was like, well, like, what is an anime? And that's kind of what sparked this too, is just thinking about it, because he was like, a lot of these animes are actually like animated in Korea, which a lot of people don't know, the Korea, Philippines, and all that kind of stuff. And so when you think about it like that, you know, all of a sudden you're like, what? And so I think it's easier to just say that, because if you look at American cartoons, right, and then all of a sudden they go to Japan and they're translated, you wouldn't say, oh yeah, that's like Johnny Bravo's an anime now. You know, I'll you know, oh, that would be a crazy anime if it was an anime. But like, but you know, I mean, obviously there are. You know, I'm starting to think about that now, and I kind of want it. But you know, it is.
Do the monkey.
Sarudis. But yeah, it's for people that don't know, Saru means monkey. But anyway, I was having a lot of problems with this, just because I feel like there are elitists out there that are very specific, like very, very specific about this. And it's hard to tell, because obviously when we talk about things like Avatar, that's usually like the biggest debate out there. Like, I call that like anime inspired, just kind of like Ruby is. I feel like that's Japanese inspired. Even though it is licensed over there, and it has, I think it has Japanese voice acting now and all that kind of stuff. I believe it's Japanese anime inspired. But the only problem when you look at styles is now we have 3D animation like Berserk and all that kind of stuff. So it's hard to even put it in like, oh yeah, this is a style of anime. It's like, it's hard to kind of tell now, man. It's like, I mean, and then we have like things like Steven Universe, which is kind of crazy. And you know, like I mentioned, Adventure Time and all
We're
that
looking
kind
at
of.
the same articles, Lucky. I don't know.
I was watching a video, so maybe he was looking at the same articles as
Oh,
you. You
Yeah.
read.
I read a video.
Ew.
Oh my god, he
Reading.
reads videos.
Come on, Johnny.
Sorry.
Come on, Johnny. Reading.
sorry.
You would be the last one to read too. Come
Yeah,
on.
that really
Yeah,
did.
no.
That kind of threw me off when you said you read. I was like, wow, I didn't even read. What are you talking about? This is crazy. But yeah, I mean, I think. So let me ask you guys this: how important is this question that we're asking? Because I feel like to some people it's very important, and to other people it's not as important. Which I kind of like the name of our channel. Like that's why I like kind of using this word casual at the end, because if anybody comes after us, it's like, hey, we're casual, hey. But you know, how important is this question?
Hey, get
to
outta
watch
here.
Anime. Yeah, yeah, right.
Well, before answering that question, I wanted to also put forward to you with the viewership is like, I feel like a show like My Hero Academia was specifically written for two audiences. It's way too heavily influenced by American culture to only be for Japanese audiences. And like that's the thing. It's like it's totally written for Japanese audiences. Obviously, it's Japanese. It was originally a manga, and it takes place in Japan. But there's such a heavy American influence in it that it's like this is literally comic book. So it's almost My Hero is the closest thing I would say to that reverse audience is that it's a heavily comic book inspired manga. Instead of like what we've been doing like Steven Universe is a heavily anime inspired cartoon. My Hero is the closest thing to a heavily comic book inspired anime. And I would say movie, but I mean, like, there's nothing specifically for comic books made into shows. They're just shows and movies. And I just wanted to put that point forth because I think My Hero is the closest thing so far that's
So
done that. I can't think of any.
I disagree with the My Hero aspect, but I was actually going to get into this next, which is there was this movie called The Animatrix that came out. It was actually made by a Japanese studio to go to American audiences. So it does kind of nullify my point a little bit because it was meant to go to both. And I think it was supposed to take place, oh man, between the second and third movie or something like that, of the Matrix movies. And it was made by a Japanese studio.
Animatrix. Okay,
yeah. And it was made by a
Yeah,
Japanese studio, and then it was meant for an American audience, but it also was meant for the Japanese audience because, I mean, why wouldn't you just do that? So yeah, like I said, it is really hard to tell. But what were you gonna say, Johnny? I saw you ruminating. Man.
Yeah, Johnny.
I saw you ruminating.
Stop
man.
ruminating over
Saw
there.
it.
Oh no, I got a bunch of different thoughts going on in my head.
Hold on.
Nothing specifically. Oh god.
He's dead now.
Yeah, nothing
You
really to
have
add
his
to
thoughts.
what you were saying. If anything, I'm just kind of curious, like, where do we list those few shows that are like, they are anime, they aren't anime,
Well,
they're anime adjacent.
I mean, Love, Death, and Robots on Netflix is also another one that's really, really close to what anime is. I mean, you're right. Like, Animatrix literally is Anime Matrix. That's literally what the title is.
Mhm.
But it's not. I mean, like, it's very different. It's more in the style of Love, Death, and Robots than it is anime because it's supposed to be many different videos compiling into one big thing. I mean, and we've seen OVAs, but usually OVAs are tied off to something else, except for like, then we saw that like 3-minute one that was like, it's standalone.
Mhm.
But to your original question, Lucky, unless you would like to keep talking about that.
No,
Okay.
you leave me alone.
How important is the question? I don't think it matters at all.
Oh, really?
I think the act of even trying to judge what is anime or not is what you said. It's very elitist because that means you're trying to take a point of blocking things out from being a part of the category. I think it's okay to have many different little Venn diagrams and being like, oh, well, this one's partially anime and this one's like super anime and this one's like, oh, it's got a dash of anime in there. And that way you're not like saying it like this is pure anime or not. It's just saying that, well, anime is all inclusive and we all know what anime is, but it depends on like how much the creators want to make it like anime. Like I'm pretty sure certain shows that we've been talking about are like, yeah, we actually were anime inspired by this. And by saying anime inspired, they're like, well, we were trying to make an anime, but also make it adapted for American audiences. So it's like, was the initial intent to make an anime? Then sure, anime. Why not? Who is anybody to say it's not? Unless it's like absolutely not. But I mean, like that's kind of what Johnny was saying, where it's you view it, you see it, it's an anime or it isn't. Castlevania is one that's like another one's like, is it an anime? I don't know. I mean, we all said it was an anime when we watched it.
Well, then we have Netflix just with Blood of Zeus, like, hey, I'm an anime, deal with it.
And that's the thing, is like, who are we then to say, yeah, you're not? I'm like, I'm a casual over here. I'm not saying what's an anime and what's not. I'm just enjoying the content. And then, it's not really my job to go out there and figure it out because it doesn't matter. It's just a show that's out and I'm going to enjoy it. Now we can say, was it a good anime? Was it a bad anime? Well, that's an entirely different thing. I don't know, John, what do you feel about that question?
Honestly, I think it's funny. We keep saying what is anime, and I don't know. I keep paralleling it to what is art. You know, not that all anime is art, but I'm kind of like, yeah, that really is kind of a subjective thing. You get whatever you take out of it. But anyway, as far as whether the question of what is anime is important, I think it's. I don't know. I almost want to be weird and say something strange, like it's important as it isn't, and that doesn't make any sense. It's just I feel like the question is important because I want the thought process of what is anime to keep going, because I think ideally we would have different sources of things that are anime. I mean, I don't know still what that would stand as far as like they all have to fit a certain criteria, but I mean you could have Japanime, Americanime, some other anime. I don't know. I don't know. That's why I'm like I just hope that the discussion goes forward and people are open to things. But I also don't want people to just say something is anime just so it's anime.
Johnny, you're on fire with this, and let me say, when you read a couple articles, suddenly you become just an expert. So I'm here to say first, you're out of Anime Casuals. You're way too knowledgeable.
Yeah, I was gonna say, man.
Once you said reading, way too well put together.
Yeah, I was gonna say, once you said reading, I was like, oh my god, he's gonna bring some mind-blowing experiences.
Good being here. Bye, everybody.
I mean, yeah. I mean, he talks about all these existential things. He's like, what is art? I mean, then he's like, it is and it isn't. I'm like, everything he's saying is beautiful and wonderful. I'm like, okay, he's gonna go start his own channel where he just talks about these deep thoughts.
Well, what's really funny about all this is like, wow. Do you guys remember when I like randomly I just like did an art presentation for you guys, like an art history, and do you guys remember what happened at the very end? What I showed you?
Yeah, toilet. No,
yeah. No, you did. I did. I showed you your toilet.
Oh yeah.
I showed you your toilet, and I said like that. That's kind of what's more modern now. Like there was this really funny joke where this guy or all these people were looking, and there was just a pair of glasses where like the art piece was, right? And so so they're just looking at it like a pair of glasses, and they're just like, "Wow, that's really interesting." And then it turns out it was a prank. This guy just goes up to the glasses, puts them on, and like everybody's like, "This part of the art? Like we don't." So yeah, it does get a little strange. Obviously there was art like can't remember exactly what the guy's name was, but he literally just put his name on a urinal, and like that was his art. So yeah, it's hard to say. I would say that obviously it takes an amount of skill, and it does take an amount of storytelling and all that stuff. And what other question it kind of reminds me of is like what is hentai, right? Like where do you cross that line? Because it almost seems like a similar thing. Now that's a little bit easier to tell. Like obviously, My Hero is not a hentai unless you go on certain websites. But you, it's one of those things where you start to think really. You can think pretty hard on it, but I mean, ultimately, man, it's just like obviously, Blood of Zeus really kind of brought this whole thing up. But at the same time, it was just like I really enjoyed the show. And I'm gonna do a video about it tomorrow, but you guys will see it on Friday. So there's that to look forward to.
Guess we have to finish it by Friday.
But I mean, you guys just don't have to watch the video. It's not a big deal. You don't have to support me or anything. But yeah, but yeah. I mean, I think like the last question I want to ask you guys is like, have you ever actually gotten into like a full on? I mean, have you ever really cared when somebody said, "Hey, like Avatar's anime," and then have you ever just been like, "No, it's not"? Because I've had that initial reaction to things just because I think what happens is we become our opinions a lot of times. Like, not to get too deep on here, but I was talking to somebody on my mental health channel, which you guys can check out, Mental Health Casual, and who had schizophrenia, and he said he always made it very clear that he was like, I'm not schizophrenia, I'm somebody who has schizophrenia, and I never said that I was schizophrenia, so I never like personalized with it. Sometimes I feel like when we say we're I watch anime, therefore I'm a weeb, because I'm a weeb, I believe anime is this, and we start to get in that elitist kind of culture thing. But have you guys ever had that initial reaction to something, like somebody said something with anime, and then all of a sudden you're like, "What did you just say? This hand of mine is burning red."
Copyright.
Roll the intro.
Weirdly, with that, like, and what you said previously, I think most of now what I'm thinking is like, and what you said earlier, just putting an amalgam of what everything I've heard so far. I'm now an opinion. Is that I really feel like most of it is effort, and there's a person who put the like glasses down, and if then everybody views that as art and it's like the most expensive art piece in the world, it's like, well, I mean, it didn't take much effort, but you made something beautiful because you thought of it before. And that might have actually been like, wow, that's a very genius way to think. It's like, hey, just putting glasses looking at an art is its own art. So it all, like, I feel like depends not even on effort initially, but it's like the thought behind it. If it's deep enough, then it matters. And that goes on to like what I'm about to say is like, for Avatar and Korra, like those are so deeply ingrained in like what I've experienced that I never consider them anime. I always consider them anime inspired because they were on freaking Nickelodeon. I'm like anything I watch on Nickelodeon can't be anime. It's got to be cartoons, and like because that was literally made for kids on Saturday morning cartoons. Even though I don't think it was on Saturday morning, but like it's all specific intent. So that's the only time I probably will ever be like, no, this is an anime. This is directly anime inspired. But then you say something like RWBY, I'm like, no, RWBY's anime. It's like it's so inspired by anime, and it's like even the first season, we're like, oh, I guess they're playing with anime tropes over here. They got chibi things, and like they're trying a lot. I'm like, because they're trying to be an anime. Like that was their specific intent, is that it's anime, and like. So I think it's all real shortly. Like I will only get up in my own head about whether that's an anime or not if it's like such a throw in the wall. But I mean, like if was it Panty and Garter? But wait,
Panty and Stocking.
Panty and Stocking. If Panty and Stocking is an anime, then you can have anything be an anime because that show is weird. So I love it though. But like it has claymation in it. Like I'm like. It's not very stereotypical for an anime, but I'm like, they say it's an anime, so I'm like, I've never really gotten it up in arms unless it's something specifically I watched when I was a kid. So, and I don't think I ever will be, unless like Lucky comes out tomorrow. I was like, hey, I chopped all these pieces of cardboard paper up and I made a move like this and I called it an anime. I'm like, okay, you get out of here.
Whoa, let's not talk about the future of anime casuals here, okay? Let's be careful here, okay? We don't want to give too much away, okay? So let's just. What do you think, Johnny? Before Michael ruins my whole video series.
I'm thinking about this art museum analogy real quick as a last minute thing, and it's got me thinking about Crunchyroll and Funimation and stuff. So let me ask this: is Rooster's Teeth stuff? I don't know, because I'm thinking, if you, given that same art scenario, the glass is just someone left them there. If you did that outside of the art gallery, I don't think anyone would think it's art. So, I mean, it's almost like the gallery provides the criteria. I don't know. That's probably not the right word quite, but I mean, I don't know. So it's got me thinking, if RWBY is on Crunchyroll, I mean, or at least on Verve, does that then make it an anime? But I don't know. This is what I was thinking. Anyway, random thoughts.
See, I pulled them out of his head and they're just floating back. Has Johnny ever been upset by somebody had a strong reaction?
The strongest reaction I had was probably with Blood of Zeus. Not even that it really bothered me, but it threw me off. The fact that, see, I want to overreact and be like, the audacity of Blood of Zeus, the audacity of Netflix to just do whatever they want and, call anything anime. But I don't know. That's probably the only time that I really had a reaction, because I was like, I'm blown away. That's I would not have thought this. Just because Castlevania is kind of similar in that vein, and the animation is similar. It's on that line. So I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I was sorry, I was just looking up. Oh my God, I cannot remember this fool's name. But anyway,
I want to see if it's called anime somewhere.
That's like a Samurai Jack.
so there was this.
Let's see.
It's really funny. You just brought me back to my philosophy days, Johnny. Arthur Danto
Mhm.
was the one that was. He talked about the art world, and he kind of he actually makes the same exact point. Is anything that's in specifically an art gallery. Now I can't remember exactly this is him because there's two different people that are talking about this. He says
Mhm.
specifically if this is uh, if it's in a gallery, then it is art. Which does that mean the bathrooms are art too? I don't know. But then there is another way of thinking, which my philosophy professor, what's his name? Thomas Letty. He did a couple of articles on this, but he talks about life as aesthetic, right? Like life is art, because if you think about a like a Japanese tea ceremony, right? You think
Mhm.
then he's like, why isn't that art? Because it's such a beautiful type of thing. So I think that's just kind of the way that these questions are, right? Like, obviously, there are objective truths out there, but when it comes to any art, it's really hard to pin it down and really hard to exactly say, what, just anything, right? Like, obviously,
Mm.
if we boil it down to like, hey, you know, like Johnny, are you sure that you're human? Do you breathe? Like we have requirements, right, that need to be met in order for us to really do that. But then all of a sudden, some people are born without certain things, and it's like, okay, so what? So wait, what? Like, how are you doing this? And like, it starts to get kind of
Mhm.
weird. But even with like anime, like you were just talking about penny stock, and that's why I thought it would be easier just to think about it, because that was actually still meant for a Japanese audience. But it looks like an Adult Swim show. Like it looks like an Adult Swim
It totally
show.
does.
It's like,
It absolutely
yeah, and
does.
it's like it's kind of ridiculous, but yeah, just like you, I love that show. But yeah,
I remember the
it is.
Boondocks was another one.
Yeah, Boondocks. Yeah, that's definitely up there. Afro Samurai.
Mhm.
Anything with Samuel L. Jackson cutting people up. That shit's hot. But yeah. So so anyway, this is our whole episode on what is anime. What do you guys think anime is? Let us know in the comments below. Also, we're taking suggestions for anything, guys. I'm almost done with the Omega. Actually, I should be done by this video, so you can check out that video on my Omegle thing that was suggested by one of you commenters. So we will try and get to any comments that you guys want, any anime recommendations, anything that's a little, on the bad side, we'll just give to Johnny, and we'll just he's just such a good job with these bad anime, man.
Uh,
But yeah, just remember, guys. Well, first, just remember that this will be on YouTube, but our other part where we talk about Fire Force, all that kind of stuff, will be on podcast exclusive, so you guys can check that out. I'll put the link down in the description below. But also, remember to keep it casual.